I want to first thank you for doing this.
Happy to be here.
When I emailed you about this, I was sure that you'd be down for it, but it's always nice to have that confirmation that, like, yes, I'm excited for this.
Absolutely.
And this is officially the second episode of this series. It's called Devoted to a Passion, and it's inspired by Off Camera with Sam Jones. It's an interview show that I watch online, and Sam Jones is a professional photographer, and he knows a lot of celebrities, and he interviews primarily actors, and I think he's the best interviewer out there. If you watch his interviews, they're like each about an hour long, and they play like therapy sessions.
Okay.
And it's unlike, interviews that you watch on, like, The Late Show or whatever, where,
Sure.
where it's like 5 minutes.
You'll get a snippet.
And they're
yeah,
talking
right.
about the movie primarily, but you really get to know who these people are and where they come from in their
Right.
history. And that's what I love. And personally, when I just inherently, I'm always curious about when someone is so passionate about what they're doing. I inherently want to know, why do you do this? Like, what is it about this that excites you? Like, is it in your DNA, or did something inspire you? Like, what's going on here? And I love hearing these stories because they remind me of why I do what I do, and they have the potential to inspire people to go on their own journey and, maybe pursue acting on their own.
Sure.
And there's just so much potential, and I wanted to use this series as an avenue to give people insight into the individual's journey and to share their perspective and share their journey. And so you are multifaceted. You are very talented.
Thank you.
You
Appreciate
are
that.
you're an actor. You're a singer. You do voice work, and you're a model. You do all this, and very well, I
Thank
might
you. I
add.
appreciate that.
So what I want to start with is where the journey began and what inspired you to pursue all of it.
That is a loaded question.
loaded, right?
Statement. It is loaded. It's decades old, and first of all, I'm honored to be sitting here with you.
Yes.
I've had the pleasure of working with you and your colleague Eli.
Yes.
And loved what we did.
Yes.
And I hope, to have more in the can with your team.
Yes.
But in answer to your question, how did it begin? It began when I was a small boy.
Yeah.
Back in Chicago. I was born and raised in Chicago from a large family. We had 5 kids and mom and dad, and eventually grandma lived with us and a couple of dogs. And my mom came from a family of 8, and they all had, a bunch of kids. So it was family and cousins and picnics and, well-rounded, environment of people and love.
Yeah.
And I was sensitive, and in tune, with people and myself, and I was always drawn towards singing, the arts. I was kind of afraid of it,
Yeah.
and I was quiet with it, at first. When I'd watch on TV, one of the big singers, old Barbra Streisand, early Streisand, and
Yeah.
some of the other big vocalists, and they'd have these specials on TV, and I'd lay in the living room and it was mesmerized by the impact,
Yeah.
and on many levels. The person watching it and hearing it,
Yeah.
and what it must have been like for them, as they were singing, what that must have felt like, and it was all about the feeling,
Yeah.
and again, I was sensitive and I felt things, and so it started, with my attention to the sound, the voice.
Yeah.
And then, of course, I got that on local levels in church, you
Yeah.
know. And as I got older, I was in choirs. I always had people kind of prompting me to get into like musicals and music theater and stuff, but I was kind of afraid of the acting side of it.
Okay. And why was that?
I don't know. I was afraid to step into it and own it.
Okay.
You know, I
Interesting.
could admire singing from a distance, and it was a little more controlled.
Yeah.
But the acting thing, you were naked out there.
Right. You are.
So it took me a long time to be okay with that. You know what I
Okay.
mean? I had a friend, you know, and her mom owned a small modeling agency.
Yeah.
And I'd go over there, and she'd tell me, "Oh, you should get into modeling." You know, oh yeah, right. You know, but eventually, you know, those thoughts were in the back of my mind, and
Right.
I'd hear more.
She planted the idea.
Exactly.
And you were like,
You know, and I had a sense of style.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't put on, it wasn't fake, it was just who I was.
right, natural, authentic.
Natural, you know,
Yeah.
order, organization, you know,
Yeah.
a presentation, you know, whether it was how my homework looked, you
Yeah.
know, a book report,
Yeah.
how I worked on the yard, you know, the garden or the grass or the bushes,
Yeah.
trimming a shape, doing a paper, putting on clothes. It was just, to me, it was as natural as waking up. You know?
Okay, wow.
Not everyone had that, you know.
Right.
When you get out in the world and you mix it up with other people and stuff, you kind of see what you got and what other people don't have, and you know.
Right.
So my thing was that sense of style, you know, and an appreciation for. I was always drawn to that music, you know.
Yeah.
I was in a garage band when I didn't know what the heck I was doing, but I wanted it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I sucked. You know, I was terrible, but I knew I had it. I was a superstar inside.
Yeah.
You know, what I was putting out there was caca. You
Garbage.
know, garbage.
Yeah.
But it was my first look at it and my first attempt to own it.
Yeah.
So it started, you know, to answer your question, it started when I was very young,
Right.
paying attention to, and it was really deep inside.
Yeah.
You know, and I didn't share it with everybody, you know.
Right.
Didn't
Who did you
admit
share it with?
You know, just friends, you know, like you gravitate towards people that you're like,
Right.
you know. So my friends and stuff, you know,
They knew
knew
about
I was
it.
real interested in, you know, in music and stuff.
Yeah.
But, you know, I didn't go to mom and dad and tell them, oh, I want to be a singer, or oh,
Yeah.
I want to try acting, you know.
Were you afraid of them saying something negative?
You know, if I'm honest, you know, I on some level knew it wouldn't have been a very practical choice. You know what I
Never
mean?
is.
Right. But I'm just saying, when you're that young, to kind of blaze the trail, you know what I mean?
Right.
No one else was in my family, you know,
Okay.
drawn to that. And I didn't, I can't say I didn't really come from it, because at barbecues and stuff, you know, my uncle would play the accordion, and there was this genetic thing for talent. You know,
Yeah.
my mom had an artistic eye.
Yeah.
My godmother, her sister, you know, owned a ceramic store, and you
Yeah.
know, a number of my relatives, my uncle Ron painted, oil painting. You
Okay.
know. So there was this artistic
Artistic
thing in the genes.
Yeah.
You know, my grandmother's brothers, they were in vaudeville.
Okay.
They
Wow.
had three of her brothers and one of their friends. They were in a group called Brooklyn Comedy 4,
Okay.
and they were this song and dance and comedy thing. But that's the only, you know, genealogy, with the arts. So I was so sensitive, you know. I was not brave enough, you know, to just announce it to the world.
Okay.
And I always was
But
around
you always
it.
knew.
I was always new, and I was always around it. I was always around it.
Yeah.
And then as I got older, I got into choirs and, you know, got more expressive with it. But at the acting thing, was the last thing I put my toe in the water with.
Okay.
You know what I mean? It
And
wasn't
why
till-
was that?
I think it was the nakedness of it.
The
you know?
timing of it.
Just the timing, natural order,
Yeah.
my confidence.
Yeah.
You know, I got into print work, commercials, you know,
Yeah.
voiceover. I was in the garage band, and I joined choirs, and I got better, and I got vocal instruction. My first talent agent, I was exclusive with A+ Talent Agency in Chicago.
Okay.
And my agent found me my first vocal director.
Okay.
And she was 83 years old.
Oh, wow.
Her name was Elizabeth Shaw, and she was on Broadway. And she spoke like this, and, you know, yawn the air up and keep the jaw loose. And, you know, she worked with me for like 6 months
Yeah.
and said, okay, you're ready for this guy. And she shuffled me off to a guy named Bob Maureen. And I spent a couple years with him. And he kind of taught me the mechanics of classical training. And on a local level, in my neighborhood, I had to travel. I was in the northwest suburbs of Chicago, so I had to travel a good 45 minutes to get to him. But
Yeah.
on my local neighborhood level, I was in a choir, and I was part of a really good choir. I wasn't one of the better singers, but being part of that choir made me a better singer.
I understand.
And we did concerts, and then
Yeah.
got to be really good friends with my our vocal director and our choir director, who I'm still friends with today.
Nice.
She's just the sweetest thing.
Nice.
And so I got really good experience in Chicago, and it all bloomed from there. So I don't want to, monopolize the, the first question that
That's
you asked
okay.
me,
That's okay. You've done a lot. And so when did the acting really come into play?
The acting came into play when I came out to, other than the commercial work that I did in Chicago, which
Yeah.
was snippets of stuff, when I came out to California.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
and when people found out, when my friends found out what I used to do. And now I was also, backtrack to Chicago. I worked for a production company,
Yeah.
and from that, my business partner and I went out and we started our own company. And I was around celebrity and I was around musicians, but the acting thing. When people found out what I did, they were pushing me towards, you've got to get back to this. You've got to
Yeah.
get back to this. So in answer to your question, the acting thing didn't start till I came out to Chicago.
Okay. And
I
how
would
long
say-
ago was that?
I moved out to California about 22 years ago,
Okay.
but after my mom and my brother passed away
Okay.
was when I seriously decided, what do I want to do with the rest of my life?
Yeah.
And that's when it all came together.
Yeah.
It all came together.
So it was their deaths that
I think it was
helped
is
the
that
transition.
it helped launch me, just and I've
Okay.
had, by that time, Kevin, I
Yeah.
had enough people that matter
Yeah.
come up to me and say, you are talented. I had people, I used to sing in a choral group called the Choraleers.
Yeah.
And there was skits and things in there, and I'd have people come up to me and just, your voice,
Yeah.
The publisher of our paper, I found out I'd never seen Phantom of the Opera. He bought me a ticket,
Yeah.
$250 ticket to go see Phantom of the Opera in San Francisco.
Wow.
He said, that's you. I've had enough people
Encourage it.
encourage me
Yeah.
that I'm like,
Well, that's fantastic.
yeah. So the acting thing hit hard
Yeah.
5-6 years ago.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
And so you've been a bolt of lightning now.
Well, and I've been, it's interesting to watch because some of the speeches that, you watch these award shows and you see people, wow, it took 10 years to make this project,
Yeah.
or wow, I want to thank my family and all the people that encouraged me. I get it, because that's how I feel. And I see now from working on things, beginning projects, and then the creators of those projects, after I put my mark on it, then they shop it and try to get investors and try to
Right.
grow it and get someone to pick it up. And I see how long it takes.
Yeah. It's a while.
But
And all
boy,
that time you're developing the skill set.
exactly.
Yeah.
So Hugh Jackman said something one time that I really cherish, and he has no idea the impact it made on me. But he said, I watched him in an interview one time, and Barbra Streisand also said something that stays with me. But Hugh Jackman said, I live in a state of readiness. He never knows what projects are coming his way, so he's constantly getting ready. And that's how I feel right now. I've been training my body, my voice, my voiceover voice, my singing voice,
Yeah.
my acting skills,
Yeah.
I'm getting ready. My agent told me there's going to be something great that comes across my desk that you're right for.
Yeah.
And when that door opens, I want to be ready to walk through it.
Yeah.
So Hugh Jackman's words, stick in my mind. And something Barbra Streisand said one time, that she was being interviewed, and someone asked her, how is it that you sustain those notes for as long as you do? And she looked right at him and said, because I want to. And I was like, wow,
Yeah.
because I want to.
Yeah.
So I apply that now.
She wants to share her gift.
Yeah, but I mean, just the decision
Right.
to hold that note versus the panic that can come in, and
Right.
the awkwardness, and because I want to. It's like,
Yeah.
that is cool.
Yeah.
So I kind of adopt some of those things that that serve me that way.
Yes. And so out of all the things you do, you've done singing the most.
I've done singing the most. It's kind of in my DNA, and I know I'm not the best singer out there, and I've come to terms with I don't have to be this big boomer.
Yeah.
You got to make people feel something,
Right.
and I've stepped into my confidence with that. And I've done a couple of music videos, which you have seen.
Right.
And
All very good.
thank you, I appreciate that. And I finally got them out on YouTube.
Yeah.
And I'm working on another music video now.
You mentioned that, yeah.
And I've thrown my hat in the ring for America's Got Talent.
Yes.
So I have an official audition date, February 1st.
The utmost confidence in you.
Thank you very much. I'm excited, scared, and nervous.
Sounds about right.
Yeah. But I don't expect to win, but I expect to have a good experience.
Yeah. Well, the one thing I remember reading from the Roots interview that you sent me was that, and this really stuck out because it reminded me of when I met you, which I want to touch on, is that you said that, of course you want the part, but your thing is that you want to build a relationship.
Absolutely.
Which I don't think a lot of actors think about necessarily. They're aiming to impress, to leave an impression, which is great, but there's a difference between showing off what you can do and building a relationship, and we both know the difference.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Because it made me think about, when we first met, which was earlier this year, I think in the first quarter actually.
It was a while ago now, yeah.
Yeah, and it was funny to think about that because, it's like, it feels like I've known you for longer. It really does.
Because there was quality in our relationship.
Because there's that. And so we posted our thing on SF Casting.
But don't lose your thought. But I
Yes.
gotta say, I knew, just like I knew when I was younger, I knew when I saw your posting on SF Casting for that audition,
Yeah.
I was supposed to audition for that. So go ahead.
Thank you. And yes. And we posted it on SF Casting, and Eli and I had no idea who would submit anything because we were like, it's like we'll just see what happens. And I remember very clearly that we were at dinner soon after that because the submissions came in pretty fast, and we were looking at the photos, and Eli said, "Okay, so out of all these faces, just pick the one that stands out to you," and like instinct, yours stood out.
Wow.
And I was like, "It's him. It's him," and he goes, "Okay, I agree."
Cool.
And we reached out and we began the email conversation, and then we had it was really quick, but it was really awesome. We had the audition, and we only interviewed you and Tanner for it, only those two, because it was right. And we brought you in. We were in the library.
That was so fun.
It was a lot of fun. And we brought you in the library. We had you read a few times. And what struck me about you, and I love when I get this feeling, is that I can't imagine you doing anything else with your time.
That's cool.
And it was a real friendly vibe, and I could tell that you were there, seriously and authentically, and we had a really good audition, and it didn't even really feel to me like an audition. It was just like, three guys hanging out.
It felt right as rain. I felt so comfortable with you guys, and that speaks to how you guys made me feel.
Yes.
Let's not, put it all on me. You guys were so welcoming. By the time I got there, I felt like I was friends with you guys. I didn't know you,
Right.
but I felt it.
Yeah.
And I felt when I saw your audition on SF Casting, and I don't usually do a lot of that. I was like, something drew me to that.
Something, yeah.
And it was all about the relationship.
Yeah.
It was all about that.
And, after you and Tanner left, Eli and I had a discussion, and I think we waited till like the day after to email you, but we knew right then and there, like we decided in that room, okay, they're it.
That's
like,
cool.
wait a second, but they're like, tell them tomorrow, but like we know.
I knew when you
they're
guys
it.
were laughing, and I knew by your reaction
Right.
to what I was putting out there.
Yeah.
That you guys were pleased.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, yeah. We were. And what made me even happier was that, and we began the conversation in the room, is that you expressed your enthusiasm about superhero movies, and then you emailed me separately about your desire, and I was like, okay, this guy is staying in my Rolodex.
That's cool. That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
And I've had a blast, communicating with you ever since.
Oh yeah, me too.
So I can't wait for the sitcom thing. I can't wait for the superhero experience. I can't wait for whatever else is out there because you guys are cool.
Yeah, and you're awesome, and I don't.
No, you're awesome.
And I don't doubt that you're going to have a fantastic, experience with what you have to offer because
Thank you.
there's just so much there to explore. And with what you were showing me earlier, you've had tons of experience already doing all kinds of projects.
Kevin, I'm so ready now
Yeah.
to just step in with both feet.
Yeah.
My story is very eclectic. I've worked for startup companies. I've started companies myself. I've had business partners. I've worked for large corporations. I was
Yeah.
a senior account executive with MCI WorldCom for a number of years. But I've always come back to the talent thing.
Yeah,
I can't turn away from it.
yeah, it's who you
So
are.
now I'm here, and the things that I've done the last 5 years are now starting to produce fruit. And when I
Yeah.
say the last 5 years, I mean because that was when I seriously decided, this is it.
Yeah,
I'm serious. I like to always say, you can quit smoking, you can lose weight, whatever. You can intend to, you can want to, but when you decide to,
right.
game changer.
Oh yeah,
So I decided, there were many nights when I laid in bed and stared at the ceiling, when I was back in Chicago, when my brother and my mom were passing away. It was the worst 2 years of my life. And I will not bring this conversation, there.
well, it's interesting stuff. So if you're willing to share.
Oh, it was just horrible. My mom had pancreatic cancer.
Okay, wow.
And a side effect of the radiation that she experienced, she lost her ability to speak,
Oh wow.
and she lost the use of her right side. So she was right-handed all her life. She had to learn to become left-handed or do without. She couldn't communicate her thoughts to us. Now you try taking care of someone you love dearly and help her get through the day. Or what do you need, Mom? What do you want? It was horrible. And she was such a great lady. She always reverted to humor. She was not a woe is me kind of gal, She was an amazing, amazing woman. And my sister Betty sold her house, quit her job. She had a government job, great job, and moved in to my parents' house. She gave up her house and took a small room inside my parents' house to take care of my mom. And I would go back and forth periodically. And like when my mom went through what they call the Whipple surgery. And if you Google search it, it's one of the most invasive surgeries they do on the human body.
Oh wow.
And she had like 44 staples across her abdomen, and they go in and they take a lot of stuff out and they don't put it all back. And 50% of the people that have that surgery don't survive it.
Okay.
And they don't do the surgery, or they didn't used to do the surgery on people over 70 years old, and my mom was 75 when she had it. So the good news is my mom went through the most invasive surgery you can go through.
Yeah.
But the bad news is she went through the most invasive surgery, and she lasted 8 years,
Yeah.
which was like a miracle,
Right.
because usually people pass away.
Yeah.
So she suffered a lot.
Yeah.
And so that was hard to watch, and that was also part of a reason I didn't jump in, fully, and let go.
Right.
My brother, now my mom had to bury my brother,
Wow.
and she couldn't even articulate her feelings and thoughts because she couldn't speak.
Yeah.
Now that's just wrong, to watch, your mom, or to watch them lower your child into the ground. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? She died 6 months after he passed away. But my
Jeez.
brother had a brain tumor. We're a very close family. To know me is to know my family. I told you that before.
Yes.
And I was amongst five.
Yeah.
And my brother, myself, and my three sisters, and mom and dad. Very close family.
Yeah.
We talk multiple times a day, you know, as it is. People are blown away by that. They just, what?
They're like, you actually talk to your
Exactly.
family? Who are
And-
you people?
And we love each other. You know, we can drive each other nuts, but I can't imagine life without them. And their support has been, my heart goes out to anyone who doesn't have sisters or siblings, or that has them and doesn't have any idea how great it can be.
Yeah.
It's just very sad. But my brother, he was the exception to every rule. And he had a major brain tumor when he was 10 years old.
Okay.
And my mom felt that it started when he fell off his bike. He took a bad fall off of a bike one time. But he complained of headaches, you know. From what I understand, he was seeing double before they knew he had a brain tumor.
Mm-hmm.
And they thought he needed glasses, you know. My mom took him to a specialist, and he looked in my brother's eyes and he said, "This is very serious and it's very expensive."
Yeah.
And they had to go in through both sides of his head to get it all. And he had a plate in his head, and he was in the hospital a long time. Mom had 5 kids. Dad went to work, came home, spent all night at the hospital. They were like a well-oiled machine.
Yeah.
They didn't have any St. Jude Hospital helping them out or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to make it and donate to St. Jude's, because I would have loved to see my parents have that kind of support.
Right.
But they didn't. They did it on their own.
Yeah.
But my brother grew up. He was either, they didn't know. From what I understand, the guy that did my brother's surgery separated the first pair of Siamese twins that were joined by the face. His name was Dr. Sugar. And when he passed away, they transitioned my brother to someone else.
Okay.
But they didn't know what to expect. Either he could not live, die in 6 months, be retarded. They weren't sure what the outcome was going to be.
Yeah.
My parents never let him, view it as a handicap. They treated him as normal as anything else. And that is why he had a fairly normal life, but it wasn't a normal life. He grew up having grand mal seizures. And if you've ever experienced someone having a grand mal seizure, it's very hard on the body.
Mm-hmm.
Their tongue rolls up, and they turn blue, they shake violently. They could smash their teeth out, on this counter. They have one in the bathroom or outside on concrete. Watch out.
Yeah.
And if you have one, it brings on a series of them.
Uh-huh.
And it was not unusual to have an ambulance at our house.
Oh, wow.
And my parents, I learned that whenever your internal body changed, you got a cold,
Yeah.
the flu,
Yeah.
your body chemicals and that changed, it brought them on.
Oh.
So
okay.
he took very strong anti-seizure medicine,
Okay.
phenobarbital, Dilantin,
Okay.
very strong drugs.
I've never heard of any of these.
Well, if you Google search any of them, and then they would take his prescriptions to the drugstore to be filled,
Yeah.
and they couldn't believe what they were seeing, the dosages.
Yeah.
When my brother would have a grand mal seizure, and the ambulance would come and bring him to a local hospital, they refused him. They didn't know
Yeah.
what to do with him. They'd have to send him to a teaching hospital.
Yeah.
It was very serious.
Yeah.
So he grew up, not having a traditional schooling, not having a traditional experience of the world.
Yeah.
And we were very close.
Okay.
And I worked with him for a long time, and it was hard for me to pull away.
Yeah.
And I could get very emotional right now. It was hard for me to pull away. I worked with him for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
But I knew that was not my greater life's work. You know what I
Right.
mean? Because again, I had that calling.
Yes.
So that conversation with my friend's, mother, that had a modeling agency, finally called her one day, said, "I'm ready."
Yeah. So all the emotions that come with dealing with that,
Mm-hmm.
how does that affect you creatively? Do you use that in your work?
That's a great question. I've got so much stuffed in here
Yeah.
from my life's experience.
Yeah.
But I learned, from taking acting classes with Charlie Holiday, who just passed away, by the way.
Yeah.
His funeral is on Thursday. going to his funeral on Thursday.
Okay.
He taught me a lot, and it's called the mosaic acting, approach.
Okay, what is that?
It's basically seeing you're all kinds of people inside. You know what I mean? I don't have to draw on the experience of my brother dying and relive that every time I want to cry.
Okay.
If you go to the well too many times, you're tapped out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's all kinds of people inside of you. If you say, well, I'm not somebody who gets embarrassed, well, really? Think back to when you had a pimple when you were a teenager. You know what I mean? You kind of get that embarrassed feeling. You know what I mean?
Something so simple.
Right. So there's all kinds of stuff you can draw from. I don't need to bring up my brother's, life's horrors to tap into, make me cry.
Okay.
So it was really a healthy approach to acting. And I'm grateful for it because it's method acting, You could need to deprogram for 3 days, after you gear up for some, freaked out, a movie experience. But you're many people, so just get in touch with how would I be if, an axe murderer was coming after me, or how would I be if I was thrown into, and then just be that version of yourself versus, digging up your dead grandma.
Yeah, and the actors that you admire and who inspire you, what kind of method do they apply?
I don't know. It's a great question. I like people who are very real to their approach. It's not Shakespearean, if you will. It's not. It's like I like Jason Bateman. I think I've told you that before. And he's. I always wondered when he first came on the scene why he wasn't an A-lister like from the beginning. You know what I mean? I was like, this guy's amazing.
He's got that quality.
And it's a very real, approach. I was thinking about this interview today, and I thought if you asked me what movies I like so many. I'd be at a blank for what's your favorite movie.
Right.
But I thought of one that I really, really liked. I think it came out in 2017, and it was Green Book.
Green Book, right.
I thought that was so good.
Yeah.
And primarily 2 guys carried that movie.
Yeah.
There were other people in the background, his family, the chauffeur's family and stuff,
Right.
and the people that gave him a hard time. But those 2 guys carried that whole movie.
Yeah.
And it was just because they were just being real with themselves. So I don't know what method they used.
Yeah.
But they were phenomenal. I like that type of approach to acting.
I do as well. And you talk about Jason Bateman, and Eli and I talked about him as well. And one of the reasons I like him so much is because, whether I'm watching, primarily when I'm watching Arrested Development, it just feels like he's being him.
He's amazing.
It's like there's actors who you watch them on screen, and then the person that you meet, if you ever meet them in person, is totally opposite.
Right. I would imagine him to be very much the same.
Right.
Yeah.
The guy that the person.
That's what I meant by real.
Right. The person who you see on screen is who you get in real life.
And that's what I meant about applying that approach to acting. Because you have that side of yourself. You have that son of a bitch inside of you. You know what I mean?
Right.
You saw me play that guy named Lefty. I played an obnoxious racist in a bar.
Yeah.
If you know me, people laugh because that is the furthest thing from what I am.
Right.
But I just
but playing the
brought
character.
that guy out. You
Yeah.
know?
And what kind of characters do you enjoy most?
I like a good whodunit.
Okay.
Something that you think it's one thing and it's another.
Yeah.
I would love to play a dark character.
Yes. We've talked about this.
Because everyone sees me as Johnny Sears. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it would be great to play that.
Yeah.
Mr. Doo-doo-doo during the day, and what's he doing at night?
Oh yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. So but I love a good whodunit. I like to figure something out. I like superpowers or supernatural stuff. Not dark, but
Yeah.
I like. I used to love the Bewitched show. You know what I mean? I just the thought of that being possible. And run with it. I like again a good whodunit or a good mystery type. You got to figure it out. I'm good at figuring them out. You know? Early on, I can go, that guy, it's him, or watch that guy. Or there'll be the littlest thing
Right.
that's revealed, and I'm like, there it is.
Yeah,
There
there
it
you
is,
go.
because I'm really watching.
Yeah,
I'm really, really watching.
and
And I learned a long time ago, I'm sorry to interrupt,
that's okay.
that nothing is accidental.
Yeah,
You know, like when a movie starts or something, and anything they're showing you, you know, the
Right.
glasses, the whatever, it means something. So that's not lost on me, even the littlest thing.
yeah,
You know, Kleenex on the counter, oh, the guy's got allergies. You know, that may mean something later, you know.
right. So you love details.
I love details.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And what do you look for in material?
Something that engages me. You know, I really liked your the negotiation
Yeah.
script. It was a good little father and son banter,
Simple.
simple banter but real.
Yeah.
You know, and what made it real was us bringing it to life. You know, but it was a real scenario. You know, now the superhero thing,
Yeah.
real cute script.
Mm-hmm.
Now that's not real, but I can picture making it real. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, once you make it, then it's real.
But that's true. That's true. But what do I look for in a script? I look for something. You know, like I've learned how to, you know, read scripts and what you can punch. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And if there's nothing to punch, you know, I gotta feel something. You know, when I'm
Right.
reading. I gotta feel something. I gotta be
Yeah.
able to relate to it. You know.
Yeah.
If it's stupid, you know, if it's hokey, you know, I'm gonna take a pass.
Yeah.
You know, I've seen people put stuff out there,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and I can't even go, wow, that's good. You know, I don't say anything.
Yeah.
You know, because the storyline is, you know,
Right.
just, you know. So I'm not going to give a specific example, but
Right.
I got to be able to get my teeth into it, or know that I could rock that. You know.
Right.
So I look for, in answer to your original question, I look for something that I can take a bite of, you know.
Yeah.
So whether it's funny,
Yeah.
whether it's, I did a scene one time with this guy, and it was a duets acting class.
Okay.
And it was a real deep scene, you know, and Charlie Holiday passed out the scripts.
Mm-hmm.
And boy, it had some meat to it. I play a guy who's like, if you and I were friends, and we hadn't seen each other in 4 years, but I had a drinking problem, and I caused you to have an accident, and you lost the ability to use your legs.
Okay.
And I've got to go back and visit him
Yeah.
after 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm as sorry as I can be, and he's as fuck you as he can be. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And, you know, there was some real meat there. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So I was like, yeah. And every time, I cried every time.
Yeah.
But it wasn't fake or put on, because I was telling him it doesn't have to be this way. You know?
Yeah.
And he's throwing me out, you know.
Yeah.
And it was a great script, you know. Now the next script he gave me was a Home Depot or a Lowe's type thing. He was like, I was taking it easy on you, you know. So I play a guy that my wife's in physical therapy, and I'm killing a Saturday morning while she's at her physical therapy, you know, getting her, you know, problem solved kind of thing, you know. And I'm
Yeah.
wasting time in Lowe's buying a box of nails, you know. It was very light, you know. It was just a cute little banter with a cashier, but he's like, thought I'd take it easy on you, you know.
Yeah.
But I like some meat, you know.
I understand.
Yeah.
So with every opportunity that you have to express yourself, whether it's acting or singing, and you sing every Sunday at church, right?
I do. I'm up in front of like 200 or 400 people every Sunday, and
Yeah.
I think that's where I shine, because I'm very passionate about the music. I mean, I have people coming up to me after church and your voice, you know.
Yeah.
But it's a combination of stuff. It's I sing, I'm mic'd through a really nice sound system,
Mm-hmm.
and I have accompaniment from a brilliant pianist.
Yeah.
And the songs are just beautiful.
Yeah.
So, you know, I can be beautiful with my
Yeah.
voice, you know.
Mhm.
And sometimes I'm doing harmonies and duets and, you know, solos. And so that's cool. And I'm starting to embrace the genre. Some of my previous vocal coaches have said, you're a crooner type, you know, like a Frank Sinatra type, you know. So right now I'm learning some music, Michael Bublé stuff. Feeling
Fantastic.
good. Michael Bublé.
Yeah.
A Nat King Cole song my vocal coach just brought to me, Walking My Baby Back Home.
Yeah.
Very smooth,
Yeah.
So I'm embracing that genre right now,
Yeah.
but I'm going to build from there,
Yeah. And what excites you most about acting and about singing?
Being in the thick of it. What
Yeah.
excites me most is actually doing it. Watching it back, is like, it's not painful, but it's like, I learn from it,
Yeah.
and I'm microscoping myself. But being in the thick of it, and I'm like, wow, I did it. I can do this,
Yeah.
I'm comfortable. Lights, camera, action. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Camera right here doesn't bother me. As long as I know my lines, I gotta be confident.
Yeah.
Confidence for me is everything.
Yeah.
If I know my lines
Yeah.
and I know my song, my lyrics, whatever, I can have the confidence. If I don't have then I'm, afraid and, not solid,
Mm-hmm.
But what do I enjoy the most? Being confident and in the thick of it, while it's happening.
And right now, you are known to people.
I'm getting known. It's not.
To groups.
I think you're hitting on something that I've learned is very important. It's not so much who you know, it's who knows you.
Right. And how do you feel about the idea of becoming a celebrity?
We touched on this a little bit earlier.
Yeah.
I've been around celebrity a lot. I think I showed you in some of my previous,
Right.
portfolios and stuff. I'm ready for my star to rise, meaning I'm ready to step into success.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I'm ready to step into celebrity, because
Right.
celebrity to me is really a perception.
Mm-hmm.
I know celebrities are just people.
Yeah.
And so how do I feel about celebrity? I'm ready to mix it up with celebrities. Is that okay?
That's okay.
Okay.
There you
So,
go.
yeah. I'm ready to have some success. So if that means,
Yeah.
if you're going to call me a celebrity with that, then so be it. But I'm not going to view myself as a celebrity.
Right. Well, there's always how people perceive you and how you perceive yourself.
Sure. I always describe myself this way. I don't call myself an actor.
Okay.
I don't call myself a singer. And I don't call myself a voiceover talent.
Okay.
I call myself, working as talent.
Working as talent.
Working as talent. Am I
Okay.
doing acting today? Am I singing? Am I doing voiceover? I am a voiceover, talent. I am a
Yes.
singer, and I am an actor.
And what's your experience been like with voice acting?
It's been the most limited, but yet it's not something that will probably be something that endures with me the longest, because you can grow older with that.
Yeah.
And I've been told by Ray Nakamoto, who did my voiceover demo. Did I share that with you? My voiceover demo?
You shared some of it.
Okay,
Yeah.
I went and had a voiceover evaluation done by him, and then I did an analysis to find out where I belong.
Yeah.
And he tested me on all kinds of script and copy. It was like a 3-hour thing.
Yeah.
An hour and a half of it was just an interview, one-on-one like this.
Yeah, yeah.
He asked me a bunch of questions, and then he put me in the booth and had to put on the headset, and he was at the board, and I was in the booth, and he tested me out on all different scripts. And from that session, he wrote copy for me.
Yeah.
And then I went back and recorded my voiceover demo.
Okay.
So my voice has always gotten the attention of others.
Yeah.
On many levels, on a local level, on a peer level, on a professional level, in a business level, presentation skills. I used to be a mobile DJ. I worked for a
That's
production
right.
company, and I was out as a master of ceremonies.
And you enjoyed that?
I did, and it gave me a lot of presence,
Yeah.
in front of large groups of people, because I was not the young, hip, hot mix, street guy.
Yeah.
I was more the clean cut, so they sent me out on a lot of corporate gigs where they wanted somebody in a suit, clean cut, but yet could program music.
Right.
So consequently, I worked with large-scale corporate party planners. I was part of a team of entertainment for some large-scale events.
Yeah.
And one night it could be a country hoedown. The next night it could be a street dance somewhere. or a big corporate, real estate thing. It just depends.
Yeah.
So I got a lot of experience. I was sent all over the city of Chicago.
Yeah.
I worked at a lot of venues.
Yeah.
And I'd hook up the trailer full of equipment and bring it there with an assistant, set it all up, change my clothes, and do the show and tear it down and go home. And and I was doing that. That paid my rent
Okay.
while I was doing auditions and bookings during the week.
Yeah.
So it was a good marriage. And then from there, the clients we worked with,
Yeah.
my business partner and I, said, we could go out on our own and do this.
Mm-hmm.
So we approached some clients, and they said, we don't care what number we're calling, we just want to work with you.
Yeah.
So we went out on our own and did that for 8 years. And then I decided that it was time for me to get out,
Okay.
because we were at the point where we were going to have to lease a large building and grow,
Yeah.
and I had this calling.
You had the calling.
I had the calling.
Yeah, and you had to respect it.
And my sister, she vacationed in Hawaii and met her husband. He was doing Pro-Am golf tournaments at the time.
Okay.
And my mom and her vacationed in Hawaii, and they fell in love. And my sister and I shared an apartment in Chicago, and she was a flight attendant, so she could date long distance. And so she ended up moving to California, and I stayed working with the company.
Okay.
And then I would vacation once a year out to California.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow. I didn't know it could be like this.
Yeah.
The weather, I was born and raised in Chicago, I was like, people live like this?
Mm-hmm.
And I fell in love with California. So it slowly changed everything.
Mm-hmm.
And then I moved to California and moved to Beverly, so to speak. But something I didn't touch on with you is when I was working at the production company in Chicago, before we went out on our own, our office manager came to us from an office in Beverly Hills, and he brought a lead with him, and he said, I'd like you to work this.
Yeah.
So, and it was a company in Japan.
Okay.
And so I wrote letters,
Yeah.
and the company was called Moto Promotions in Fukuoka, Japan.
Okay.
And I ended up sending entertainers to Japan.
Oh, wow.
I would hold auditions in Chicago, and I
No
would pack
kidding.
a presentation. Yeah, like I said, I could talk to you for hours about what I've done. My story is very eclectic.
Only these recorded for like 3 hours.
Exactly. But what I would do, I would hold an audition, and I'd collect all their, promotional materials,
Yeah.
and I'd set up a really neat presentation in a briefcase, and I would
Yeah.
send them a briefcase to Japan,
Yeah.
and then they would shop it to their clients,
Yeah.
club owners and other venues, and then they would call me, and I'd say, okay, wire the funds, and I'd set up the work visas and
Yeah.
send them off, and keep that stuff going.
And that was fun?
It was very interesting.
Yeah.
It got to be tedious, we need them here, in 2 weeks, we lose face. Well, don't tell them they can be there in 2 weeks. Don't promise them that. Why did you do that? This takes time. It starts with you wiring the money, and then
Right.
getting the work visas. I'm running
it's
down.
ABC, not ACDB.
Exactly, and I'm running down to the visa office trying to get things in, by certain. So it got to be a little hectic,
Yeah.
And they came out to visit me,
Yeah.
and my boss helped entertain them, and it was the real deal.
Yeah. And right now you are also doing real estate.
I am. I was when I finished my stint at MCI WorldCom, and that came to a stop when Bernie Ebbers, who's in prison right now for borrowing $358 million from the company.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it rocked that company big time. I decided I was done with corporate sales. So a friend of mine suggested real estate appraising.
Okay.
So I researched that, and I contacted a number of different real estate appraisers in different counties and asked them a bunch of questions. And a lot of their information was consistent. And I thought, I might try that. So I have started from scratch, entry level. I sold my house
Okay.
and lived off of some of the money.
Yeah.
I put some of it away so I could buy another house. But I knew from experience that you can't just start in a new industry, entry level, say, hi, I'm here, love me, start paying me, You have to start your internship, and you got to go to school.
Yep.
I went to school. I finished the school, and that allowed me to go take a state test and get a trainee's license which allows you to go get a job as a trainee working for a certified appraiser, and you have to log 2,500 hours as an appraiser under a certified appraiser. That took me 4 years.
I was just gonna say that sounds like a lot of
It
time.
took 4 years. So consequently, you're getting, a fraction of the appraisal fee. I got a company to take me on,
Yeah.
and I got 30% of the appraisal fee because there's a lot of hand-holding, through the process.
Yeah.
And as I become more available or more valuable, with experience and stuff, less hand-holding, go do the job. I was up to like 55%.
Yeah.
Then I took another level of testing and got a certification, and I could go out on my own.
Okay.
So yes, I started out in appraising. When the market tanked, my mom and brother passed away. I decided, again, I had a lot of days to lay there and, stare at the ceiling while they were passing away. Say, God, what do you want me to do with the rest of my life? And I decided to listen. And so I decided when my mom passed away that I was going to get my real estate license to sell.
Okay.
I didn't want to appraise anymore because when you're really busy as an appraiser, you're a mole in a hole.
Yeah.
You're out inspecting properties, maybe 3 or 4 or 5 a day, and then the next few days you're in the office doing your reports.
Yeah.
I'm more wired to be out there with people.
Okay.
So, and my sister was a real estate agent for a long time. So my appraisal background I never knew was going to lend itself so well to selling real estate. So I got my license to sell, and Coldwell Banker, the brokers there who she works with,
Yeah.
they knew me from doing appraisal work for them.
Yeah.
And when I had my license, they said, we have no problem with you understanding value.
Yeah.
So we'd be happy to have you as one of our agents. So I joined forces with my sister.
Yeah.
And it's one of the best things I ever did. Because if I have to leave for a creative project, she's out showing property right now.
Yeah.
Tomorrow I'm showing property.
Right.
It's a great partnership. If she
Yeah.
has to go off and do something, clients are still well served.
And currently, you enjoy doing that with the talent
I do.
stuff. Yeah.
I do. It's a real good fit.
Yeah.
I can't wait till one day I'm just total talent.
Okay, so that is the goal.
That's the goal.
Okay.
But if it takes a while, that's fine because real estate is what keeps me alive.
Right. There is that balance of here's this job and then here's what I
Absolutely.
really want to do.
Absolutely.
But what's the sweet spot, which you found, is when you can do both and you actually enjoy doing
Exactly.
both.
Now it's taken a long time to get there.
Yeah.
It's for anybody out there watching, people come into this industry a lot of different ways.
So many different ways.
And it's not everybody starts out as a child actor and working in films.
Yeah.
And has the doors open to them.
I secretly wish that had been my childhood.
How nice.
Admittedly.
How nice. I often wonder what it would have been like if I had stayed with it, like when I was back in Chicago. I was a print model and did commercial work and everything for like 10 years.
Yeah.
But I got nervous. If
Yeah.
I don't make it big,
Right.
I'm not developing any other skills here. And I came from too practical of an environment. You will work, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You just can't ignore, life.
Right.
You gotta keep yourself alive.
Yeah.
But I never could turn away from it. So I
Yeah.
never did. I was always involved in the creative process.
Right. Well,
It
it's always
just-
there.
it's always there, right.
Biting at the bit.
So now it seems like the universe is saying, okay, it's time for you.
Yeah, of course. Well, that's really nice. And, for me, it's like, I can't tell you how many times I've read the story of somebody who I really admire and learn when they began and how they got their start. And I become overwhelmed with jealousy and wish I could turn the clock back to when I was like
Sure.
5 years old and be like, okay, let's just do this all over
Yeah.
again
If we
the
all could
right
do
way.
that, if we all could do that. Yeah.
Because with me, it's like I in film school I was obsessed with the idea of making a feature film.
Cool.
And of course I'm still on that track. I want to be a feature filmmaker. That's my goal.
I want to be in one of them.
You are going to be in one of them.
That's cool.
At the very least, one of them.
That's cool.
Not all of them. Why not?
Well, that's cool. Yeah, I don't care if I'm just a little face in the...
And for me, it was like I would read story after story about this filmmaker and that filmmaker and when they made their first feature film and how it went to Sundance and how it was like the hit of the festival and then they got their big break and I'm like, why isn't that me 5 years ago,
Yeah.
I would get mad at myself, and I still occasionally do. And I'm like, okay, stop being unrealistic. You're living your life. Be grateful that you have what you have, that you
Yeah.
have
That's right.
a family who supports you,
Yep.
which I do.
Which is golden.
And I'm internally grateful that I have a mom and a dad and a sister and a brother-in-law who
Yep.
love me and who support
Yep.
me. And I can't imagine my life really any other way. And I do like the idea that I'm building my future for myself. And I mean, because there is part of me that wishes that I had like, you know, that my dad was a big director who I was on his sets as a child.
Sure.
And I was like, ooh,
Yeah.
now it's my turn.
Yeah.
But I'm working the path where like no one knows who I am, relatively speaking.
Sure.
And I have to make my name for myself, and I do appreciate that perspective.
You have a talent though that I don't have. You know, like you know how to make a film. I don't. I rely on people like you to make me look good.
Yeah.
You know,
well,
I've
that's
had-
easy because you're
I've had a lot of people tell me, "Oh, the camera loves you. You're very
the
talented."
camera
you know?
does love you.
Well, thank you for that. But I'll never forget when I was doing a short film, and the Lefty character.
Yeah.
And I'm doing a one-on-one scene with the star of the film, and I'm delivering my lines,
Yeah.
and he's about ready to lose it, you know,
Yeah.
because I'm doing this crack-up thing, and he stops and he says, he tells the camera guy, "You have got to get the camera over here. The look on this guy's face is epic."
Yeah.
You know, if it wasn't for that type of thing, I'd be delivering my lines, but I wouldn't know what to make me look good. You know what I
Right.
mean? So you have that, and I don't have that. It takes a village.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, you know, when I was doing my cut of the negotiation, I just kept thinking to myself, I'm working with footage of a movie star.
No, that's really cool.
And we've got you on camera here on these 3 beautiful cameras. The audience sees you, I see you. I respect the hell out of you, and I cannot wait to work with you
Wow, I'm humbled.
on as many projects as we come up with. Thank you.
I'm ready, Kevin. I'm ready.
Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
this.
I'm honored to be sitting here with you because I know you're going places, and I want to go with you.
And we both are. And thank you very much, and thank you very
Thank
much.
you. Thank you.
All right. Batman out.